I don't think the Arctic Monkeys need any sort of introduction. They are global superstars that grew from humble beginnings and constantly evolved to eventually become the giant that they are today. Unfortunately, I'm one of those kinds of insufferable people that will always say that their newer material is nothing on the early stuff, and I'm of the opinion that they started with their best material and only got more boring and weird and not my taste as time went on. Which is fine. They're allowed to make the music they want, and I'm allowed to have my opinion on it. No hate at all is intended. But I figured, seeing as I and many others share this opinion, it might be worthwhile jumping into those very early days of Sheffield's finest scrappy band of indie rockers and uncover the unique story the boys have weaved for themselves. Alex Turner and Matt Helders grew up in High Green, Sheffield, as neighbours and childhood friends. Alex's dad David was a music teacher and had some resources and knowledge to help his son's creativity along. Some places say Alex started his music journey making hip-hop beats on some software his dad had, inspired by artists like Roots Maneuver and Brain Tags. This evolved into wanting to start a rock band by the turn of the century. Artists like the Strokes and the Libertines planted this seed, and the explosion of the noughties indie rock wave and garage rock across the pond surely exacerbated this itch. Alex's first gig was the Vines in Manchester, and through television like VH1 and MTV, exposure to these names, like the White Stripes, the Highs, Queens of the Stone Age, helped mould this fascination. In 2001, at the age of 15, Alex got his first guitar for Christmas. Matt Helders, his best mate and neighbour, decided to get a cheapo drum kit, and with some help from recruited members Jamie Cook and Andy Nicholson from school to play guitar and bass respectively, the boys were away. Matt says about this early period, quote, "We didn't realise before then it's something you could do. We just thought that bands were on TV. It didn't seem like something that people who lived near us did." One thing many don't realise is that before anything kicked off for the boys, there was once a fifth Arctic Monkey. Friend of the band, Glyn Jones, was brought on to sing initially, as Alex was too shy to take up that mantle to begin with. However, he was sort of half forced to be in the position, and left shortly after joining. In an interview with The Sun in 2006, Glyn said, "I'm really proud of them all. What they have done is amazing, and I doubt if I'd stayed in the band they would have got this far. So at least there's no bad blood." By this point, the band have songs written, have been rehearsing for at least 6 months at a warehouse in Neeps End, Sheffield, and are ready to get some gigs going. Their first gig was July 13th, 2003, in The Grapes, a popular pub in Sheffield. Barely 17, the four boys take the stage and play a number of covers, ranging from Hendrix and the Beatles to the Datsuns and the Vines, along with some originals. Alex said about the gig in an interview with The Telegraph in 2013, "We had practiced so much beforehand, and it was a major deal just to go and play somewhere. I'd never been on stage in my life before that moment." There's a bit of audio from the gig on YouTube, and the boys' sound is clearly influenced by things like the Libertines and the Hives, even giving his vocal delivery a bit of a Jack White element to it. They also played some originals, namely Ravey 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 Club and Curtains Closed, both of which would appear on the band's first demo tape, unofficially known as Beneath the Boardwalk. Consisting of 18 songs recorded at Two Fly Studios in Sheffield, the boys used to hand out free copies of the demo CD at gigs. It's known as Beneath the Boardwalk because that's where it was first given to people, Beneath the Boardwalk, a nightclub in Sheffield at the time. Pretty soon after the CDs were handed out, fans had uploaded the songs online, and they'd spread across the web, mainly on MySpace, completely unbeknown to the band. Matt has said this about the phenomenon. "We used to record demos and then just burn them on the CDs and give them away at gigs. Obviously there weren't many demos available, so people used to share them on the internet, which was a good way for everyone to hear it. We were giving them away free anyway. That was a better way for people to hear them. And it made the gigs better, because people knew the words and came and sang along. We can't complain about it." This fan-fronted, word-of-mouth marketing campaign made their name explode across the north of England, and eventually led to the boys playing Reading Festival 2005 on the Carlin stage, a tent reserved for upcoming talent. They had the tent absolutely packed out due to their online growth, and smashed the set to a crowd of fans singing along to as-yet unreleased songs that they knew simply from the file sharing. The only video evidence that remains is a short clip on YouTube of this performance, of the crowd singing the intro for When the Sun Goes Down for Alex, nailing every word. Supposedly, judging by the comments, recorded by Andy's brother on what I can only assume is some kind of Nokia, it's the last remaining video evidence of the chaos of that Carlin tent, arguably the gig that really fanned the flames for the band's initial wave of fame. Following Reading in August of 2005, the Arctic Monkeys released their first single commercially.
"We're Arctic Monkeys, this is I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor. Don't believe the hype."
A song that needs zero introduction, heralded by the NME as the perfect encapsulation of what it is to be young, pissed, lusty, bored, angry and skint in modern day Britain. It's an astounding introduction to the band's upcoming album, exploring themes of spending the years of young adulthood in nightclubs and parties with a distinct garage rock punky instrumental and accompaniment. Recorded in just 3 takes, Dance Floor sold 11,000 copies in one day. It stayed in the UK top 10 for 4 weeks and had been certified triple platinum by the BPI, selling 1.8 million copies total. We all know this song. Some may roll their eyes 18 years later, but you can't deny the lasting impact it's had. Interestingly, before the single's release in September 2005, an interview with The Guardian reveals that Alex was not fond of this particular song. Quote, "It's a bit shit. The words are rubbish. I scraped the bottom of the barrel. It could be a big song, right? But I'd hate to be just known for that song because it's a bit crap." Despite Alex's downplaying of what could be considered the best song to emerge from the UK in the 2000s, this song was enormous. After its release and sheer dominance of the British zeitgeist, it was rumoured that the band were industry plants or had hired hands out to spread the band's name around. None of this was true, of course, though who can blame people for assuming? The meteoric rise to fame was completely unprecedented. So October saw the release of Dance Floor, and the following January blessed the world with the debut album. Whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not. A clunky title, no doubt, this album is one of my, and millions of others, favourites of all time. Nailing the feelings of being young and out on the lash in modern Britain, Alex and the gang knocked expectation off of its pedestal and then some. Looking at website bestsellingalbums.org, with a pinch of salt, Whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not, is supposedly the 30th best-selling album globally of 2006. To say they released their first single 3 months prior to this, the sheer speed of growth was immense. It was at this time the fastest selling debut album in the UK, decimating the charts around the globe, and won the boys multiple awards from multiple outlets. To this day, this debut record is held in such high esteem by many, some saying it's their best. Taking cues from aforementioned bands like the White Stripes, the Strokes, the Vines, etc., amalgamated with a dollop of socially conscious young lyricism like The Jam, the band struck a winning combination. Songs like Dance Floor, Still Take You Home, and You Probably Couldn't See for the Lights but You Were Staring Straight At Me, these titles are a bit much, are nuggets of insight into the nightlife in Sheffield the boys have begun to experience. Riot Van slows it down a bit with a melancholic retelling of the bandmates getting caught by the police and jeering at them. Mardy Bum is allegedly about one of Alex's grumpy ex-girlfriends who had a bit of the ump. These songs are relatable to millions, and that shows in the explosive popularity of the record. A 2005 article by The Guardian says this about the album. You might not believe anyone could write a narratively coherent album about a late-night taxi journey or an evocative ballad about watching the cops trundle around the corner. Alex can. He has an alchemical touch, the ability to transform the base stuff of life into solid gold rock and roll. In August of 2006, the Artic Monkeys played the main stage of Reading Festival on Saturday night, the same weekend that saw My Chemical Romance pelted with bottles on stage. They played the slot before headliners Muse and had the entire main stage crowd under their spell, singing along to every word for the full 50 minutes. There's footage of the gig on YouTube, and it's a video I go back to now and again. Frankly, I'm just jealous that I wasn't there. Playing through the majority of tracks from their newly released album, along with a selection of B-sides and closing with A Certain Romance, I think this gig marked a point in the band's history. Their biggest gig to date, it can be seen as sort of a wake-up call to their real popularity. Alex had to stop in disbelief during Still Take You Home. Matt still drumming in his joggers. They were still the young, humble Sheffield kids that were dicking about, but just happened to be in the biggest band in the country as well. So of course, 2006 was a huge year for the band, with their album release, landmark shows and a slew of awards. 2007 then saw their sophomore record Favourite Worst Nightmare released, and their Glastonbury headline debut, and from this point the ball never really stopped rolling. Sadly though, Alex looks at this part of the band's history with a bit of disgust. He went on record in 2011 to say that their third record, Humbug, was their way of proving that it weren't all about those 12 songs about the chip shop, and he finds it difficult to play songs from this era. When you see what the band's become in recent years, it's clear to see what he's getting at, but it'd be nice to hear them bring back some of these beloved tracks every now and then. These days, with their experimental projects and lounge-esque personas, they are a completely different beast. Still headlining festivals like Glastonbury, touring the planet after conquering America with 2013's AM, and generally living a rockstar lifestyle. But for me, it's all about these humble beginnings. The Artic Monkeys are one of, if not the, band that started it all for me. The first album, along with the B-sides and the follow-up, were formative to my music taste and really who I am as a person, and I'll always cherish them. These songs are a gateway to the band's headspace and experiences at the time, but are also timeless. A no-thrills rock and roll album that so far has stood the test of time. Despite my lack of enthusiasm with the group's direction in recent years, this era of the band will always be my Artic Monkeys.